طيب يعني انتوا راح تشوفوا آسرن في كل الجلسات، يعني مش راح تخلصوا منها يعني من هون اليوم بكره، كل مره راح تشوفوا حدا من آسرن اللي يتحدث، وهذا شرف لنا طبعا. الجلسه الاولى الرسميه الاولى بعد الافتتاح اللي هي معنيه في العلم المفتوح، بنحاول نعرض تجارب ومتحدثين من منطقتنا. الجلسه الثانيه برضه بالعلم المفتوح، ولكن راح تكون للمشاركين يعني من خارج ليسوا موجودين حاليا عن بعد، وراح يديرها زميلي كمان في الجلسه. الجلسه هاي راح تكون يعني ننقل فيها تجارب واقتراحات لمسيرتنا في الموضوع العلم المفتوح بشكل خاص. حسب الترتيب اللي في البرنامج اسمحوا لي ادعي اول شيء الاستاذ الدكتور محمد الواوي، هو استاذ تعليم عالي بالمعهد العالي للتصرف بتونس في جامعه تونس، وتخرج من جامعه ويسكونسن ماديسون وجامعه بيتسبرغ. يدرس حاليا التصرف في نظم المعلومات MIS في المعهد العالي للتصرف بتونس في جامعه تونس. كان عضوا في هيئه التدريس في جامعه بيتسبرغ بالولايات المتحده وجامعه كيبك تراو ريفيرا في جامعه كونكورديا بكندا، انا كيبك بعرفها يعني. كليه التقنيه العليا في دبي والجامعه الامريكيه في بيروت. وقام بالمشاركه والتاليف عديد من الاوراق البحثيه والكتب حول تكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات وانظمه المعلومات. دكتور تشرفنا بالسيره الذاتيه الرائعه، تفضل.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me because I'll be walking around, and I hope that my voice reaches you wherever you are in the room. Oh, we have a mic. All right, the title of my presentation is the University Year 2050. I think it's better now, and the metaverse. And first of all, I'd like to thank the CCK and the ASREN for having invited me. And my term, I would like to welcome everybody coming from abroad to Tunisia, my country, which is, and I'm sure you know where it is. But it was in Tunisia that a long time ago, there was the Zaytuna, which is the third most most ancient university in human mankind, founded in 734 AD. And in Zaytuna, inside, you can see this, and you can project yourself in the past, try to imagine how things were. At that time, we had a bunch of what we call sheikh sitting down on the floor. And you can recognize maybe Dr. Abdurrahim ibn Khaldun, his brother Yahya ibn Khaldun, sociologist and a historian, and a bunch of others, Muhammad ibn Arafah, ibn Ziyad, etc., etc., a whole bunch of knowledge fortresses. And the way it was at that time was that learners, or students, as we started calling them, talaba, would walk in the university and walk around the sheikh at any time they want. They wake up at 10 o'clock, wake up at 7 o'clock, wake up at 11 o'clock. It doesn't matter. They walk in any time they want. And then they pick the sheikh they want, depending on what that sheikh is talking about that day. It could be fiqh, it could be geographia, it could be sarf, it could be nahu, it could be anything. And it is not structured. Meaning the sheikh of today talking about sociology could be talking about fiqh tomorrow. And the learner would decide which topic interests him then, that time. That was then. Today things changed. This is how it is. On a good day. I mean, a whole bunch of students and the teacher will convene on a time and place for a course to take place, a course which topic was scheduled ahead of time. So ahead of time, we learned how to do timetables. It's something we did not inherit from the Zaytuna. And a timetable, we have to decide on the day and the time and the place for a course to take place. Meaning that's when we suppose that the student should be ready to learn what the teacher has to tell him or her that day. No choice there. Then things change. This is the model, same place, same time. Learning between the teacher and the learner. But that changed, thanks to you know who. Thanks to COVID. Now we have same time, but different place. Why? Because we don't have the right to be in the same place. Under the command of the sacrosanct new rule, keep your distance. So social distanciation, some people now call it physical distanciation. You don't have to be in the same place at the same time. So now we started doing funny things like that. A teacher would be at home talking to a screen, looking at his pictures, see whether he or she is smiling and not having any idea whether the students are beyond the screen. Yet it is supposed to be teaching. Of course, there are other things. Since we talked earlier about place, we talk about time, so we change the place and the time, so we have two different scenarios that are going on, and they'll be activated thanks to modern day technology. And that's my turf, information technology. So let's see how that worked. Same time, same place, COVID. And now, this is something that is, I'm sure this is the first time it happened in mankind, that the COVID was a huge change agent, that it changed the way we play, live, and work, forcibly, whether we like it or not. And everybody in this room is either an IT person or knows a close person that's an IT. We have no choice anymore. Things have changed. And they change in organizations. This is what a study says, that COVID accelerated digital transformation in organizations by 6 years. Some say 7 years, and I'm citing McKinsey here. 7 years gaining overnight. Now that changed organizations, also changed universities, because that's what we need to come back to all the time. And we also have a different model, different time and different place. That's the model that I picked. That's what Netflix has picked too. So there's a movie, and then you pick the movie, you watch the movie when you want it. You don't have to go to the movie theater to watch a movie at the scheduled time. So it changed everything we do. Like I said, changed the way we live, work, and play, and even entertain ourselves. So we have these two different models. One is called synchronous, and the other one is called asynchronous, is the latter one that I picked personally, because my students are now into YouTube, and they use YouTube. So let's put our course there on YouTube, just in case I die one day. And Diane will talk about too. So different time, let's see what that gives. Different time and different place. Can we do that? Or is it just a view of the mind? Well, it's called holograms. Let's see how it works. We don't have good sound. Maybe the engineers back there can fix that, but it doesn't matter. The picture is speaking for itself. What we have here is somebody appearing in front of somebody else, and that somebody has recorded what you see there some of the time. It's just that we need him to talk today, and this is how it happened. So he asks him, are you in the present or future? And he answers him that, frankly, he doesn't know, but what he's sure of is that he's not dead yet. But I recall having taken courses by somebody who was dead long ago. Why? Because they taped the course I was in at the University of Wisconsin at Madison in 1986. So let's see how this works technologically very quickly. And I urge you to keep your eyes pointed where the fingers are pointing. And I'm going to play it off for you just now. Let's see how it's playing out. We're scanning a body. You can see it there. And this is the scan of whatever you see there. It is being projected in some other place at the same time. And once it is projected, it can also be recorded and projected some later time for some later use. And of course, we're talking about teaching here. So that's one. Let's see how we can speak that. Now, how does that work? Now we have technologies that do it at the reach of anybody. This is my son. Let's see how he is mimicking the movements and the gestures of his body to record them and project them onto some avatar. And then whatever he's doing there is going to be replicated down here and put in a movie. And that's how it works. Of course, we have technologies to do. Let's see how this is synchronized. Whatever he's doing is being recorded, memorized by some machine, and then used and projected for some other use. This is the equipment that he used. It was pretty expensive at the time. It isn't now anymore. So all we had to do, we could have done it today, and we project the presentation, the conference I'm giving you today, to others in the future, anytime, any place, any way. So that's what let's go back to same time but different place. And now we have another technology. It's called the Project Starline. Now, you know, when people go to jail, they want to talk to somebody, a visitor, so they sit on a chair and they would be talking to somebody else via a telephone, but that's sometimes in place. What you see here, and again, we don't have a sound, I don't know whether the engineers back there can help us with this, because they are describing it way better than I would ever do. He's talking to somebody who seems to be across, but who isn't. In fact, that somebody is in some other place. It's pretty much like Zoom, but way better. And the impression is so vivid, you're so immersed, that in fact, you'd be reaching out your hand to see whether you can touch, pretty much like we see here in a movie by Jean Cocteau, which was made in 1950. You can imagine the look ahead this guy had 7 years back. Plunge your hand across the screen and be in another word, a parallel word. And that's what I invited you to come today to talk about. What will the world look like when you can, the metaverse, another universe in which you be immersed and be living another life in case you're fed up with this one. And this is what we want our students to do as well, because they are fed up with the way we deliver the material nowadays. What's the metaverse? What is it? Now, that's what people are starting to wonder about. Starting November 2021, when Mark Zuckerberg started to make a big show about it. Some very old idea indeed. The metaverse is an interactive 3D, understand 3-dimension, space where people can create, share, and explore virtual worlds. Let's move on. There are already quite a few platforms that correspond to this definition. The first of them all is Second Life. The first that be called metaverse. Then we have decentralized sensor, some of them better known than others. And some of them are better known than others in our domain. So we have Meta, the Horizon Worlds. This is Mark Zuckerberg playing with this thing. And then we have Verbella, and we have Tech Adaptica, which I'm very proud to announce that it is Tunisian born. So Second Life, let's talk, let's hear the founder. Engineers back there should wake up maybe, because I really need this guy to talk to you. This is the founder. That was 2003. This is the founder of Second Life, the first metaverse, in which people would go and plunge in a different world simply because, really, they are fed up with this one. And then you are immersed and you live a second. I don't know if you ever tried to put those goggles or those headsets, VR headsets. The minute you put them on, you're transported into another world. And you can bump into a wall if you don't pay attention walking. And we have avatars like these. This is all Second Life. This is a person sitting behind that, so people have chosen avatars. Avatars are personas, symbols for them to live by in the world that we're talking about. And of course, we have Verbella. We talk about that too as well when time comes, which is going to be very... So I was looking at that and I said 2003 and 2021, this is old time. Maybe I shouldn't be talking about that day. I'm speaking about today. And then came this study, Welcome to the Metaverse, by McKinsey and Company. These are not fun people. They are serious. They don't waste the time. That was when I was preparing for this presentation, July 9th, 2022. That's 2 weeks back. So I said, oh, I'm still on time. It's something that's still the buzz, and it is indeed. So with its potential to generate up to $5 trillion in 2030, my presentation extends to 2050. So we're talking about money. Is it real? It is, the money is. But then again, what do we care about money? We are in education, teaching, and research, aren't we? We don't care much about money. What do we do with money? We are into knowledge. So let's see how this is a person, I don't know if you know her, she's Anshi Chung. She became millionaire in a world that doesn't exist. Now that is real. This is what you call real. So that was in 2006. So are we interested in a metaverse? Are we really? So McKinsey went out in February 22, asked the question to people and see who is interested, and unsurprisingly, people would like to go to the metaverse to play games. And then again, all the models that we know today, Second Life included, was inspired by games. But then again, surprise, we're talking about learning now. Up to 43%, that's 3-point point, and especially attending a live learning course. It's funny to find that the learning and the metaverse appear on the same slide. That just makes my day. This is what a course looks like. This is a person telling us that you'll be sitting in the classroom, feeling a classroom with neighboring students that are actually alive, attending that course at the same time as you are. Each one of them, including you, having an avatar. That could be just me, for all you know, behind a feminine avatar. And then again, that's one of the platforms that we talked. It's good to have students go to plants. This is a Tunisian plant. I always dreamt, I'm in business, and I keep talking about organizations and business and plants and supply chains, and the students I'm talking to never been in a plant. It would be nice to have them walk in the plant, a real one. No, I will not go bother some other plant in Radis or Ben Arous or whatever. I'd have them walking. And this is from the API, Agence de Promotion de l'Industrie Tunisienne. We have a virtual visit tour of organizations that teachers have not thought about. So the metaverse, there's Verbilla, that we're going to talk about. Verbilla is an entire organization with 180 people all living in a metaverse, meaning nowhere, but they are doing something, and they have a GDP on their own. And they have a 6-story building for them to use, and they only have one for you and me to go and visit, which I did. This is the visit. So you go to Verbilla, and this is what it is like. And you would hear that somebody, you'd know that the person talking is the one with the bubble. So here, he's invited them to go to a tour, show them how to jump into a place, and they would go to an auditorium. This is a lecture hall. This is what we call an amphitheater for some funny reason. And then you walk up there, you have 3 boards, you can use 2, and then you can improvise furniture, as I show you in a minute. And this person can give a lecture. In fact, a lecture was being given that morning in that auditorium. Then you can see here that you can extend the, that's one person having a question, a student, I imagine. The student being asked. You can get some more furniture in case we have more students, and you'll see 3 chairs popping up somewhere right there. And then you can also size up and down the auditorium, as you're going to be seeing in a minute. That's in case it's not enough, and we can have up to 1,000 seats, meaning 1,000 people attending the course at the same time. You can talk to them, you can point to them, you can wake them up. Nothing to do with Zoom the way we do it today. So again, that's Verbilla. Let's talk about Tech Adaptica, and that was founded not long ago, in fact. It was in June 28th, 2021, by a Tunisian, Hosni Zaweli. Here's an interview by him on the news, and this person is inventing, he's not trying, he's doing it. He is inventing a university and selling it to other universities, among whom we can count Stanford University.
That very area where you normally sit at your desk and look at the blackboard and see the teacher. Is it essentially recreating a classroom in a virtual environment?
With the avatars, they can walk around, they can go to class, they can watch videos, they can work in teams. All that creates a feeling of, or a sense of community that feels like almost like your own classroom. In other words, at Tech Adaptica, we eliminate the distance in distance learning.
So we eliminate the distance in distance learning, but we keep the time. This is same time, different place. This is the auditorium, and you can see the names of the students. Doesn't appear due to revolution, but we can see that there's a stadium back there, and the yellow spots indicate seats that are vacant that you can pick, and this is another one showing the students from the back, and you can see the names. This is a TA, a teaching assistant. Here's another one. We indicate the names pretty much like I did earlier in the presentation, and this tells you that, in fact, I'm coming to the end of the loop.
$1,000 think they were getting.
Here you can see how a student will stand up in the middle of the course, or how a teacher will actually be given a course, but somebody, the student, the current one, me in this case, would zoom into the board to see what's going on. But only I would do that. The others in the room would be doing something else. So it is fine-tuned, and it is customary for all the students. Now, when will this take place? Bill Gates is very good at making predictions and getting them wrong. 3 years, he says, we'll have metaverse meetings that will be run-of-the-mill, it will be mainstream. If we look at him, he will talk about 10 to 15 years.
In the next 5 or 10 years, a lot of this is going to be mainstream.
Thank you. So 5, 10 years, and in his book, 1995, he said something very compelling. I'm going to read it out for you. People often overestimate what will happen in the next 2 years. I mean, whatever's going to happen in 2 years, we say it's going to happen tomorrow, and thus estimate what will happen in 10, meaning we say that things will happen in 10, that will happen in 20 years. That is the proper of technology. And in fact, that is what's going to happen, which helped me to explain why I put that 2050 in the title of my presentation. But something is sure, there will be not only a new normal, it will be a next normal. There will be many normals coming one after the other, thanks to the pandemics. And I quote Arthur C. Clarke, whom I admire the most, because this is true. This is when I felt it the most. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. My name is Mohammed El-Wadi. Thank you very much for your attention.
شكرا دكتور محمد. شو رايكم نخلي مجال الاسئله بعد ما يكتمل المتحدثين؟ بدي اشكر الدكتوره سوسن ان اختارتك تتحدث اول واحد، فانا كلمه يعني زي الكينوت اللي تفضلت فيه، فشكرا دكتور محمد الوادي مره ثانيه. اسمحوا لي السيد رائد الزوبي، هو سيتحدث عن استراتيجيه آسرن للعلم المفتوح. هو مدير مكتب جامعه العلوم والتكنولوجيا في الاردن، وهو ساهم في تطوير سياسات الخدمات المكتبات على مستوى الاردن وليس فقط على مستوى الجامعه، وكذلك في تكنولوجيا المعلومات. وتقلد العديد من المناصب التنظيميه، اهمها مدير الخدمات الالكترونيه ومدير قسم الحوسبه الاكاديميه ومدير قسم النظم والشبكات. رائد تفضل.
يسعد اوقاتكم جميعا، وانا سعيد جدا للتواجد مره اخرى مجددا في تونس الخضراء الباهيه باهلها الطيبين. محاضرة اليوم هي يعني إضاءات راح تكون عن دور آسرن المنظمة العربية لشبكات البحث والتعليم واستراتيجيتها في تبني ودعم العلم المفتوح. طبعا أنا ببدأ من حيث بدأت فيه الأستاذة سامية جلسة الافتتاح اللي هي اليونسكو. حسن الحظ معنا الآن اليونسكو موجودين برضو في سيشن ومحاضرة لهم. كما يعني تشاهدون هو تعريف العلم المفتوح هو يعني بناء متعدد الجوانب ومتعدد الأطراف، وهدفه بالشكل النهائي هو مشاركة المعرفة وبشكل عام المعرفة العلمية بمختلف اللغات حتى تكون متاحة وقابلة للاستخدام من جميع سكان المعمورة، تتيح التعاون العلمي، تشارك المعرفة للمجتمع. يعني هي ليست حكر، وهذا التعريف حسب الريكومنديشن لليونسكو اللي هي توصيات اليونسكو، انها هي ليست حكر على المشتغلين بالحقل العلمي، هي متاحة للمجتمعات بشكل عام. طبعا لما نحكي العلم المفتوح هي جوانب عديدة، قد يكون النتاج العلمي جزء منها، العلوم التطبيقية، العلوم الطبيعية، العلوم الاجتماعية، الإنسانيات، ومبنية على مجموعة من المكونات اللي هي المعرفة العلمية. البنية التحتية هي جزء من مكون رئيسي للعلم المفتوح. التواصل العلمي برضو كمان، التشارك والتعاون والحوار. طبعا هاي برضو كمان هي يعني تلخص من توصيات اليونسكو عن تعريف العلم المفتوح. يعني اللي هي للذكر وحضراتكم اساتذه وباحثين، هي انه ان العلم المفتوح هو ليس الوصول المفتوح. هو العلم المفتوح هو جزء، اذا بتلاحظوا الخارطه، الوصول المفتوح الاوبن اكسس هي جزئيه من مسار متشعب ومكونات عديده ومتعدده للعلم المفتوح. يعني الاوبن اكسس، للنشر العلمي، الوصول للبيانات، للداتا، جزئيات تتعلق بالبنية التحتية، تتعلق بالسياسات، بالقواعد، بالمحددات. فهي يعني في خلط احيانا قد يكون ما بين الاوبن ساينس والاوبن اكسس. هو الجدير بالذكر انه الاوبن اكسس او الوصول المفتوح هي جزئية من العلم المفتوح، هي بس مجرد نقطة نظام. هي إضاءات، والجلسة المسائية إن شاء الله راح يكون معنا متحدثين بالإضافة للجلسة اليوم الصباحية، يعني راح يلقوا الضوء، يعني المتحدثين الزملاء اللي راح يكونوا بعدي راح يلقوا الضوء بشكل أكبر عن هاي النقاط أو الاستراتيجيات اللي تتبناها آسرن. راح يكون في حديث عن الليبسنس، راح يكون اللي هي مبادرة خاصة بالمكتبات، الحديث فيها راح يكون في الجلسة المسائية. التعاون مع الداتا سايد والأوركيد، معنا اليوم الأوركيد موجودين معنا مشكورين. التعاون مع الريفرنسيا اللي هي مبادرة في أمريكا ومشروع ناجح جدا في أمريكا اللاتينية، راح يكون في الجلسة المسائية. اليونسكو موجودين معنا اليوم. التعاون مع الأيوسك اللي هي اليوروبيان أوبن ساينس كلاود، وجامعة الدول العربية، وبالتأكيد أخيرا وليس آخرا اللي هي أهداف التنمية والتعاون مع الأمم المتحدة. طبعا الليبسنس راح يكون في إضاءات تفصيلية على هذا الموضوع في الجلسة المسائية، بس هي جديد بالذكر أن هو مشروع ومبادرة بال 2016 بلشت هذه المبادرة. المشاركة في ما بين شركاء اللي هم الواكرون اللي هي غرب ووسط افريقيا اللي هي الشبكه الاقليميه، الاوبنتونت، وآسرن كذلك الامر. هناك العديد من شبكات البحث والتعليم الوطنية، ومنها السي سي كي، يعني نشاطهم مميز ومشكور على الدوام. المكتبات، تجمعات المكتبات، الجامعات، مجتمعات البحث، في عندنا الكوار اللي هي الائتلاف الخاص بالاوبن اكسس ريبوزيتوريز، الايفل، جامعة شيفيلد، وبرضه كمان المعهد الوطني في اليابان، الجاينت اللي هي المنظمة الإقليمية الأوروبية، والأوبن إير كذلك الأمر. هذول هم الشركاء الفاعلين في المشروع. مخرجات المبادرة والمشروع حتى الآن هي مرجعيات للتعاون بين شبكات البحث والتعليم. خلينا نحكي خطوط العريضة للميتا داتا اللي على أهمية كبيرة في تنفيذ المشاريع. الخطط الخاصة بالمستودعات الرقمية والمكانز الرقمية واستضافتها، كذلك الأمر هي موجود الآن اللي تمبلتس، ويعني بصياغات عاملة لتتبني اللي هي الموضوع السياسات الوطنية وعلى مستوى المؤسسات البحثية في مجال الأوبن أكسس والأوبن ساينس. دور آسرن طبعا تشرفنا بالوجود في تونس في 2019، كان في ورشة، وكان في مخرجات الورشة اللي الحصول على اللي الوصول لنظام استكشاف، وهذا راح ينحكى عنه بالتفصيل بالرفرنسية للمحتوى في المنطقة العربية. خلينا نحكي زيادة التعريف بالقيمة للمحتوى بالمنطقة العربية، سواء باللغة العربية أو بلغات أخرى، اللي هي منصات المشاركة، قضايا التدريب ورفع سوية العاملين في هذا المجال. برضو تبعها ورشات بسبب الكوفيد ومحددات الكوفيد، ورشات كانت اونلاين عن بعد. كذلك الامر موضوع اللي هي هناك باستمرار في ميلينج ليست وتراسل وقائمة تراسل على الأنشطة، ومن ضمن القوائم يعني التراسل والنيوزلتر أو المجلة الشهرية اللي تصدرها آسرن، هناك في زاوية خاصة بأوركيد على سبيل المثال. برضو كمان في هناك مجموعات عمل، ونتشرف دائما في اخوان من تونس موجودين معنا في مجموعات العمل هاي. مجموعات العمل شيء بيختص بالبنيه التحتيه، يختص بالمجلات المتاحه المصدر، المكانز والمستودعات الرقميه، خدمات الاستكشاف. برضو كمان في عندنا اللي هي الكاباسيتي بيلدينج الخاصه بالتدريب. هناك في برامج تدريب باستمرار وعلى الدوام. طبعا في اهميه كبيره جدا للبيرسنتج ادرتيفايرز، او اللي هي خلينا نحكي المعرفات او الخاصه بنتاج البحث العلمي وبالباحثين وبالمؤسسات البحثيه. جميعها مهمة ومكملة لبعضها البعض. هناك شراكة على الدوام ونقاش مستمر لتبني هاي الحلول، خلينا نحكي، والتواصل مع مزودي هاي الخدمات لإتاحتها على المستوى الوطني والمستوى الإقليمي من الداتا سايت والأوركيد. راح يكون في إضاءات وتفصيلية عن هاي الشراكات إن شاء الله. طبيعة الحال يعني في مذكرة تفاهم ما بين الآسرن والأوركيد، وحضراتكم باحثين أفاضل وعارفين أهمية الأوركيد آي دي. يعني في مشاكل كثيرة بتكون موضوع اللي هي التعريف بالباحث، بس في برضه كمان في قيمة مضافة للمؤسسات البحثية في حال تبنيها لحلول الأوركيد. الرفرنسيا هي جزء ثاني من استراتيجية الآسرن. الرفرنسيا هو مشروع في أمريكا اللاتينية خاص باستكشاف وعمل هارفستنج حصاد للميتا داتا الخاصة بكل الاوبن اكسس اللي هي كل النتاج البحثي والعلمي والبيانات والمصادر التعليمية اللي هي الاوبن اديوكيشن ريسورسز في امريكا اللاتينية، واتاحتها بشكل على مستوى الاقليمي. عندهم مشروع ناجح، في كان مذكرة تفاهم من سنة سابقة ما بين تحت مظلة المشروع اللبسنس مع الرفرنسيا. من خلال هذه المذكرة تم آسرن فريق آسرن الفني قام بتقييم المنتج المتوفر لديهم المبني على حلول برمجيات مفتوحة المصدر، وتم تجربة عملية اللي هي الهارفستنج أو الحصاد للميتا داتا للعديد من المكانز والمستودعات الرقمية الموجودة في المنطقة العربية، والنتائج كانت طيبة. توج هذه النقاشات والمباحثات بتوقيع اتفاقية مؤخرا، يعني قبل شهر من الآن. بموجب هذه الاتفاقية الرسمية آسرن راح يتم توفير البرمجيات بصيغتها الأخيرة المتاحة من الرفرنسيا على البنية التحتية الخاصة في آسرن لإنشاء نواة لعملية اللي هي الهارفستنج. وجزء من الاتفاقية موضوع الكاباسيتي بيلدينج اللي هي التدريب سواء لطواقم آسرن أو للناس العاملين في مجال المكتبات أو المستودعات الرقمية لتأهيل هذه المستودعات الرقمية بحيث أنها تكون يعني قابلة to be يعني harvested وتكون نوع متوافقة مع المعايير layers أعلى يعني عالمية خصوصا الاوبن اير اللي هي متاحه في الاتحاد الاوروبي. بلا شك يعني اتاحه المحتوى العربي للاستكشاف هو من صميم خلينا نحكي اهداف الاوبن ساينس، العلم المفتوح، وبالتالي هاي بتساعد الباحثين على التشبيك مع نظرائهم في دول اوروبيه ودول عالميه اخرى. طبعا اليونسكو، تواصلنا مع اليونسكو ونقاشنا بشكل دائم ومستمر، والان بصدد توقيع مذكره تفاهم مع اليونسكو. بموجب هذه المذكره راح يكون في تعاون في مجال الكاباسيتي بيلدينج او التدريب في اعداد اللي هي خرائط الطريق الخاصه بالعلم المفتوح تحت مظله وباستناره بالتوصيات اليونسكو. برضو موضوع اللي هي انشاء الارب ستيت اوبن ساينس كلاود اللي هي منصه العلم المفتوح او السحابيه، اعداد السياسات ومن خلال ورشات عمل سيتم ترتيبها ان شاء الله لهذه الغايه. الايوسك اللي هو يعني هي مبادره جديده ومشروع جديد لدى الاتحاد الاوروبي، هدفه اللي هي خلق بيئه لاستضافه ومعالجه البيانات يعني والمحتوى العلمي. يعني الان يعني بجوز المهم جدا اللي هي مشاركه البيانات على المستوى العالمي بالاضافه للمنشورات العلميه. الهدف الرئيسي طبعا ان تكون هاي البيانات تتبين معايير الفير الداتا اللي هي findable, accessible, interoperable and reusable، للغايات اللي هي تسهيل الوصول لهذه البيانات سواء من خلال افراد بالبحث المعتاد من خلال الويب او من خلال الماشين نفسها، يعني discovery tools ماشين بيزد، يعني من خلال برمجيات معينه الاستفاده من هذه البيانات واعاده استخدامها بطريقه تسهل على الباحثين وتختصر عليهم الجهد من إعادة ما قام فيه غيرهم من الباحثين. آسرن طبعا من البدايات من شهر مارس 21 انضمت للإيوس كمراقب، عضو مراقب، وتشارك بفعالية باجتماعاتهم بالمؤتمراتهم بالاجتماعات واللقاءات الدورية سواء عن بعد أو وجها لوجه. برضو كمان آسرن، الفريق آسرن موجود في مجموعات العمل واللجان الاستشارية الموجودة للاستفادة، يعني الغاية هي تقديم ما لدينا ما يخص المنطقة العربية، وكذلك الأمر الاستفادة من تجارب الاتحاد الأوروبي أو المشروع هذا مشروع الإيوسك تحديدا. فعلى سبيل المثال في عندنا اللي هي مجموعة خاصة بالفير تاسك فورس خاص بالفير متريكس والداتا كواليتي. برضو كمان هناك في مذكرة تفاهم بين آسرن واتحاد الجامعات العربية، لأنه اتحاد الجامعات العربية مثل ما تعرفوا حضراتكم هو يعني نقطة يعني وصول رئيسي وتخاطب رئيسي مع كافة الجامعات العربية. نتطلع لتعزيز التعاون وتبني الاستراتيجية موحدة من خلال الاتحاد الجامعات العربية. موضوع الأهداف التنمية المستدامة الخاصة بالأمم المتحدة وإعلان الأمم المتحدة، آسرن بفضل الله حجزت مكانها المميز في هذا المجال. كان في هناك حضور ومشاركة من خلال سيشن خاصة بآسرن لأهداف التنمية المستدامة، وفيه راح يكون في هناك يعني إن شاء الله يعني نتائج طيبة وإيجابية من خلال اللي هي تعزيز الحوار خلينا نحكي التركيز على موضوع الاوبن ساينس، الاوبن اكسس، التعليم، قضايا التعليم والتعليم عن بعد، والحاجه الماسه لوجود اللي هي المصادر التعليميه مفتوحه المصدر او المتاحه بشكل مجاني. هاي باختصار هي يعني اضاءات رئيسيه مثل ما يعني حكيت لكم لحضراتكم. الزملاء الموجودين معنا سواء في السيشن الحاليه او في السيشن المسائي ان شاء الله عن بعد راح يلقوا الضوء بشكل يعني اكثر تفصيل على موضوع التعاون وجوانب التعاون. اذا في اي سؤال او بالاخر
شكرا استاذ رائد. يعني زي ما حكى وفي تفصيل، كل اللي تفضل فيه مهم وفي تفصيل زياده. المهم المتحدث الثاني وانا بحب اسمع له لانه هو يعني بيبعد عن يعني مش بيحكي يعني عن تطبيق، فكيف نطبق الاوبن ساينس اكثر مما انه نعمل له برزنتيشن. فهو بيقترح الاستثمار الاستراتيجي في العلم المفتوح، اهتمامات واحتياجات مجتمع البحث. يعني هو بيحاول نعرف شو الاحتياجات وكيف نطبقها. المتحدث طبعا هو الدكتور صديق الدكتور نزار محمد حسن، هو المستشار الاقليمي لمكتب اليونسكو للعلوم بالمنطقه العربيه اللي هو اليونسكو في القاهره. هو اطلق فعلا، انا شاهد يعني اطلق العديد من الشبكات لبناء ثقافه التمهيد التقني وفي المنطقه، وشارك في حوار السياسات في عدد من البلدان لتحديث سياسات العلوم والتكنولوجيا والابتكار ودعم جهودهم نحو التنميه المستدامه. عمل كخبير اقتصادي اول في قسم التنميه المستدامه في لجنه الامم المتحده الاقتصاديه لغرب اسيا اللي هي الاسكوا، كما عمل كباحث اول في مجال تحسين الانظمه في جامعه ماساتشوستس في الولايات المتحده. الدكتور نزار تفضل.
طيب، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أول حاجة يعني نشكر السادة الشبكة العربية للبحث ولا للبحوث والتعليم ASREN، وطبعا الشكر موصول لمركز الحساب الخوارزمي بتونس. والواحد سعيد انه يجي ويتحدث مع عقول نيرة. ليه؟ لانه زي ما بيقولوا العصف الذهني مع العقول النيرة بيولد الافكار الجديدة، والحقيقة هي مطلوبة في المنطقة العربية. طيب، البحث البرزنتيشن بتاعتي هي عندها تو اوبجكتيفز. اول حاجه، ويمكن زي ما اشار دكتور او بروفيسور محمد الوادي في الهيوج اوبورتيونيتي اللي الكوفيد 19 جابها، ومن ضمنها كانت في المنطقه العربيه، غير انه يمكن المنطقه العربيه ما استفادت بها الاستفادة القصوى اللي هو التحول للتعليم الرقمي. الدول بتاعتنا ويمكن حكوماتنا كانت بتشوف من الصعوبة انها تحط هذه المبالغ وتصرف على اساس تتحول للتعليم الرقمي، لكن اتفرضت عليها فرض واضطروا. في ناس مشوا 70%، وفي دول عملت 40%، وفي دول ما زالت يعني في أقل من 30%، لكن الحركة بدت. وعشان كده إحنا بنقول إنه الكوفيد كان فرصة، a great opportunity for us to catch up. طيب، الحاجة الثانية اللي أنا بحاول برضو من خلال البرزنتيشن إنه أكدها، إنه الأوبن ساينس initiative is another excellent opportunity for the Arab region. طبعا ده بالباك جراوند، ويمكن كلكم او معظمكم هنا لو ما باحثين تكونوا administrators في مراكز وجامعات بحثية، انه وضع البحث العلمي في المنطقة العربية يعني في وضع سيء جدا جدا. ويمكن الوضع الاقتصادي اللي هي شماعتنا العظيمة بتدي فرصة إنه إحنا برضو ما نتحرك التحرك الأمثل. فأنا يمكن من خلال البرزنتيشن دي وأتمنى إنه أقدر أوصل رسالة، وهي هذه مش رسالة بس للموجودين في هذه القاعة، لكن spread the word، يعني لازم نعمل شيء. أتوصل. طيب ممتاز. أول حاجة طبعا الأستاذة الدكتورة سامية تحدثت عن الانيشيتيف بتاع اليونسكو والريكومنديشنز. أنا ما هخش فيه كثير، لكن حابب أسلط الضوء على حاجات معينة اللي هي بتوري وين الopportunity, where is the opportunity for the Arab region. أول حاجة it contains the first internationally agreed definition of open science. إحنا قبل سنتين لما بعتنا مسوحات للمجتمع العلمي العربي نطلب منه يدينا فكرته عن الأوبن ساينس، ماذا يعرف عن الأوبن ساينس، إيه علاقته مع الأوبن أكسس، إيه هي المشاكل كذا. المنطقة العربية ردت علينا بأقل من 260 استبيان. المنطقة العربية كلها 260 استبيان بس، هدول اللي ردوا علينا، مع انه احنا عممناها على الدول العربية كلها. ما عايز اقول مين احسن دولة ومين الدول اللي كانت غايبة عشان ما نعمل مظاهرة هون، لكن يعني اول احساس جانا انه الناس في وادي واحنا في وادي ثاني. ليه الريسيرشر ما حابب يحسن وضعه؟ ليه الريسيرشرز ما حاب يحسن وضعه؟ يعني احنا عارفين كلنا، يعني حتى لو الواحد يتكلم عن نفسه كنا ريسيرشرز، والمعطيات المادية في آخر الشهر ما بتعمل شيء. طيب ما انت لما تخش في هذا المجال، واحدة من الحاجات اللي ممكن الأوبن ساينس تعملها بالمناسبة إنها تكشف الحال عن الريسيرشرز ووضع أوضاعهم، ويكون في كلام عن تحسينه. طيب إذا كان أنت ما بتشارك أصلاً حتى في مسوحات، وإحنا عملناها بطريقة كان كلها answers yes and no، ما كان في كلام يتكتب، يعني it will take you بالضبط كده أقل من نص دقيقة عشان كليك and click submit. فالمهم internationally agreed definition of open science دلوقتي بيعمل إيه؟ بيعمل إنه المنطقة العربية بحالتها الراهنة هي ممكن تستفيد من كل الانفراستراكشر الموجود جلوبالي في المناطق الثانية وبسهولة جدا. يعني يمكن أنا I will show examples at the end of this presentation عن حاجات هم الناس ممكن تستفيد منها. لكن يمكن الصبح اليوم دكتورة سامية ورت أركايف إكس، في huge database of reviewed papers that researchers can make use of and it's free. دي واحدة من الحاجات. الحاجة الثانية اللي هو multiple actors and stakeholders. الانيشيتيف ده بيتكلم عن ناس يعني beyond the science community. احنا بنتكلم عن انه open science for development، واحنا لما نتكلم عن الديفلوبمنت بنتكلم عن أجندة 2030 للتنمية المستدامة، وفيها أهم هدف هو هدف 17 اللي هو بناء الشراكات اللي هي بتدفع بالتنمية وتدفع بالتطور إلى الأمام. الحاجة الثالثة أو القبل الأخيرة، لابد إنه نفكر إزاي إحنا نستفيد. يعني أوكي اليونسكو عملت الانيشيتيف وقالت الريكومنديشنز في هذه المجالات، طبعا ربنا ينفخ في صور الدول بتاعتنا العربية وتهتم، مش اهتمام كلام، ومعلش اسمحوا لي، ومش اهتمام بتاع conferences. احنا عايزين real work on the ground، على أساس إنه يعني عايزين نشوف جامعاتنا العربية كلها مربوطة بنتورك. اتكلم دكتور رائد قبل شوية واتكلم عن الكلاود، العرب اوبن ساينس كلاود. هذا مشروع عظيم جدا جدا، لكن طبعا الحاجة الوحيدة اللي ما ذكرت، وطبعا هيعارضني دكتور يوسف، انه مش كل الدول عندها الهاي ليفل اوف كونكتيفيتي. طيب الحاجة اللي هي الانوفيتيف ابروتشز لازم نفكر ازاي نستفيد. يعني انا كنت بحكي بقول انه اليونسكو they did the initiative، قالوا الريكومنديشنز، طلبت من الدول انها تتيك، لكن بالمناسبة ما في بوليسيز واضحة. طبعا في بوليسيز في دول الغرب على مستوى بسيط، لأن هم بدوا حتى قبل سنوات في موضوع الاوبن ساينس وازاي يعملوا. يعني يمكن دكتور رسام يورد انه يمكن في العشر سنوات الاخيره بدا التفكير في الاوبن ساينس والاستفاده منه والى اخره. طيب هل في جود ايدياز، انوفيتيف ايدياز احنا نطلع بيها عشان نستفيد من الاوبن ساينس؟ ويمكن يعني شريك، وانا I say it and I'm okay to say it لأن هم they are not for profit. ASREN is a really good partner to have. ليه؟ لأن هم بيتكلم على الانفراستراكشر اللي احنا محتاجينها. So بستغرب كيف انه في دول لغاية دلوقتي ما أصبحت يعني عندها شراكة مع آسرين حتى على نطاق ال National Research and Engineering Network. هذه is not propaganda for you. I'm being serious. ما تفرح كتير يعني. طيب آخر حاجة it calls for comprehensive open science monitoring framework. هذول الناس بيتكلموا عن حاجات غريبة. monitoring framework. احنا we don't have data collection in our Arab countries. How are we going to monitor? طيب open science definition. open science definition, and I don't know if I want to actually go through it only for one reason, to show the Arabs that it's an excellent opportunity. أول حاجة make scientific knowledge openly available. يعني أنا بعرف إذا كان أنت فتحت أي واحدة من الداتا free accessible journals كويس and you read a paper, you are a researcher. عجبك الريسيرش وطلعت لك كم فكرة وبدأت تشتغل فيها. طبعا I know إذا كان اللاب بتاعك ما مهيأ يعني you will bypass the idea. لكن it's really worthwhile إنه أنت as a researcher يبقى عندك فرصة. If we think and think properly, we can actually make use of internet and make use of those open access databases as researchers, okay, to promote ourselves. Anyways, scientific collaboration. بالمناسبة إذا أنت عايز تسافر برا كريسيرشر، وأنا بتكلم مع الشباب اللي قاعدين ورا، this is one way you can do it. شوف لك 3-4 papers في مجالك، اقراهم كويس and contact those people. Usually the email is up there on the journal or on the article, and you can tell them about what you want to do and stuff like that. At first they will test you far apart يعني وانت هنا وهم هناك. لكن the next step is you can apply and get a master's or a PhD sponsored. يعني احنا خلينا نفكر انه ما بالضروره هي الدوله اللي تجيب لك ايش بيقولوا عليها الجرانتس والسكولرشيبس والكلام زي ده. Anyways, let me move a little bit faster لانه أنا لو قعدت هيك يمكن موعد الغد تفوت علينا. طيب, key challenges and high impact areas for the implementation of the recommendation. طبعا great change in the conventional scientific culture, وده قلناه, COVID has done that already. Let's just proceed one step further and use open science to emphasize what we did with COVID. خلينا نتحرك, خلينا نعمل مطالبات للوزارة. اخواننا احنا we want this, we want that, and اربط نفسك with CI, communication and information. There are huge technologies. فالمهم it's important to think that conventional scientific culture is gone. انك انت تقعد في اللاب لوحدك وتعمل. Now you can collaborate. والافكار collaboration طبعا بتولد synergies على مستوى عالي. عشان كده دلوقتي if you do Tempest مع ال Europeans, you realize that actually forming research groups بيحسن في results of the research itself. فيعني you can actually build on that. Human and institutional capacity, وأنا عندي كم slide هنا توريك how much capacity is still needed in the Arab region to actually develop fully the open science initiative. It's huge. هنا adequate infrastructures including طبعا reliable internet connectivity, وحطيت between brackets vital. This is important. This is where we should start. We should make sure that our research institutes, our universities are all connected. They can all go to the same databases. They can all communicate well in terms of their research circles. أنا بعرف إنه لغاية دلوقتي في المنطقة العربية وفي دول معينة كل رئيس شعبة ولا رئيس قسم قافل اللاب بتاعه على الطلبة بتوعه and nobody else goes in there. يا أخواننا, this is terribly ridiculous. الناس خلاص يعني this comes under change in the conventional scientific culture. We need to change. We need to move forward. وبرضه alignment of incentives, هذه الحتة المهمة, إنه if you align the incentives and revise the criteria of evaluation of scientific excellence, of course you will end up also evaluating the scientific careers. You can actually do something about it. يا اخواننا, احنا لغايه دلوقتي الدول العربيه ما في غير دوله واحده, and it's fictitious, that are saying that they spend 1% of their GDP on R&D. لسه ما عندنا 1%. وانا بعرف انه هذا الطلب من جامعه الدول العربيه لزعماء الدول العربيه تم في سنه 1972 انه الناس تطلع 1% of their GDP. It's not there yet. وبالتالي انت كريسيرشرز بتضيع في الرجلين لان انت في هذا ال 1% اللي ما تم. Anyways, so you talk about the key challenges. You know that capacity building is a challenge. Policies are challenges. Of course, financing is a challenge. عايزين نتكلم عن financing. How can we actually fix financing? الحكومات بتاعتنا will not do anything or will do little. خلينا نقول عشان ايه نديها credit. They're trying hard. لا, honestly they're trying hard, لكن it's difficult. لكن احنا we are the scientific community, the science community that should contribute to development. We need to find solutions to our own problems nationally and regionally. But this is the problem. We are the community that has the mandate to find innovative solutions. Infrastructures are very important to put things in perspective. If you don't have the infrastructures, دلوقتي الناس وصلت مراحل بتاعت metaverse. معلش احنا we cannot send an email yet. احنا ما مش معقول. وبعدين المونيتورينج. Anyways, معلش يا دكتور, I'm taking too long. المهم what came next to address those challenges في اليونسكو إنه إحنا we decided to form working groups. Working groups open برضو. Anybody that wants to participate and contribute, they can actually في الإيميل في اللينك at the end of the slides where you can actually go and register yourself in one of the working groups. الworking groups دي لازم يعني الناس تبتدي تتخصص في الارياز الخمسه بتاعت الاوبن ساينس. احنا we reduce them to 5 على اساس انه يبقى manageable number of working groups. Capacity building, what type of capacity building? Maybe virtual courses, maybe a lot of meetings, researcher circles, المهم, so that they can actually, when you talk about data mining, when you talk about data collection and data analysis, this is لوحده is يعني managing databases is a science in itself, and most of our countries, they don't have that level of sophistication yet. في بيكونوا 2 3 4 لكن بتلاقيه مشغول كل وقته مع الدول الخارجية. Anyways, the second working group is policies and strategies. The third one is financing and incentives, and the fourth one is open science infrastructures, والأخير monitoring. طبعا my talk is supposed to be about infrastructure, لكن I cannot not make use of the opportunity and vent a little bit. فاعذروني شوي. Infrastructure here, you have to remember that we are tackling all priority areas. يعني حتى if you talk about the biodiversity, water, disaster risk reduction, geosciences, ocean sciences, climate change, all this comes under يعني great opportunities for great new innovative technologies that you can come up with as solutions. هدول مشاكل دولية وعالمية. لكن we can actually and I'm sure that we can find solutions for. طيب وصلنا أنا here I'm moving to open infrastructure. Open infrastructure refers to what? Sets of services, protocols, standards, and software that academic ecosystems need to perform. ده معناه إيه؟ معناه from the earliest phase of research, collaboration, experimentation through data collection, storage, mining, organization, analysis, and computation, authorship, submission, review and annotation, copy editing, publishing, archiving, citation, discovery, and more. Why did I actually go through these one by one? كل واحدة من دول عايزة لها level بتاع capacity building at a higher level. So this is why it's very important that we catch up very fast. هذه واحدة من organizations that was actually formed. طبعا الكلام very small, لكن الحتة I cannot even read it. نعم؟ ليش؟ اوكي. طيب المهم هذه لكن هذه ما المهم هذه is a coalition. It's called the Global Sustainability Coalition for Open Science Services. هدول الجماعة were in Europe, and they decided that they need to look at the requirements for infrastructure in the future. What is it that they're going to need? And they actually started to raise funds for. هذا شغل ما عنده علاقة بالحكومات. هدول up to date عاملين لهم 4 مليون وعندهم 311 institute that pledged to that. I'm just giving ideas of how we can actually do things. Who's behind it? وأنا قلت who's behind it only because I want to show the absence of the Arab region. واحدة من ضمن الناس الموجودين في هذه الcoalition is the Association of African Universities. Association of the African Universities. Now, دكتور رائد ذكر كم مرة Association of Arab Universities هيتعاملوا معاها. أنا بسأل نفسي, why is the Association of Arab Universities not part of something like this? وهذه كلها is all about free, accessible resources. يعني are we not doing our job? Maybe, I don't know. هذه برضو واحدة تانية اللي هي Directory of Open Access Journals. هذه فيها 17 تقريبا 18,000 index journal with over 7.5 million indexed articles. They are all free for use. طبعا ال areas of specialization is huge. Can we actually make use of that? يعني if we talk open science, what I'm talking here, I'm referring to here is actually is low-hanging fruits. يعني إحنا لسه ما عملنا أي شيء على الانفراستراكشر بتاعتنا, and the other people who have done it ahead of us, they give us a lot of low-hanging fruits that we can actually make use of. This is also another one. I'm not going to go through these. You might have the presentation at the end and you can look at those. Directories of open access books. هذا الاركايف اكس اللي جابته دكتورة سامية الصبح. هذا is a global repository network. And I was fond to find that within the Arab region there were 5 part of that network, and من ضمنهم السودان. No, لكن هذا اللي وقفوا دلوقتي. فالمهم we need to actually move forward and at least get attached, get affiliated to those networks that already exist. See what is it that they can offer, and we bring those resources to our constituents. Why can't we do that? هذا اليوروبيان ايش بيقولوا عليه؟ Research Council. It shows a lot of their resources. الحاجات اللي أنا ذكرتها قبل شوية. They already have it. What is this? This is they invest in open structure. This is also another initiative that started completely. 2 people started it. Okay? And they moved it forward, and now it has been recognized. A lot of institutions are actually joining, and يعني all their resources are actually free. طيب I'm خلاص I'm closing. ما بيبرق لي الراجل هذا, ما معقول. Anyways, طيب areas of action, a call for a regional initiative with serious regional sponsors. If you want to invest in open science infrastructures and services, you should focus on STI. Why does STI come at the top of the list? STI because it is the core of the agenda 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda. Without STI, you cannot go anywhere. So can we think about something that is STI and connected to open science to see how we can actually make use of that? Internet connectivity, I keep remembering that and putting it as top priority. طبعا National Research and Education Networks, and the list goes on. All these are areas that you can actually look at and find opportunities and actually invest in. You can find private sector, and this is something that I really want to say. Private sector can be part of it. if the result of the research is a product that can bring profit to the private sector, they will do it for you. بس انت كيف تربط المعادلة صحيحة؟ تجيب الفلانثروبي كويس اللي عنده فلوس وهو في مجال معين وتقول له انا هحسن لك البرودكت بتاعك ده او هجيب لك برودكت جديد, and you take the money and do the research and they get the benefit at the end. This is one way the US did it in the 1990s. لما لقوا نفسهم انه مصاريف الريسيرش كترت عليهم, they stopped at the basic sciences, and what they did is they asked the private sector to pick the rest. And all applied sciences were given to the private sector. Why can't we do that? معلش يا دكتور. طيب, why did I come here? No. Oops. Am I going? I need to go back. أيوة. طيب, if I want to put that in perspective, what is it that, يعني this is all, by the way, brainstorming, عصف ذهني مع الموجودين, to see if we can actually do something about open science in our region. High-speed internet connection, يا دكتور يوسف, is top priority. You keep telling me that we have it. I want to see it with my own eyes. كل الدول العربية لازم يكون عندها. I know some of them have it, but with metaverse you need to think twice. هذه important. بعد ما هي تكون الكونكتيفيتي فيه, we can play with what gadgets we can hook to. الاريا الثانية اللي أنا فكرت فيها اللي هي how can we actually connect to sustainable development. If we create a series of knowledge hubs for sustainable development technologies, education, and utilization to guide the national and therein municipal communities in each sub-region. طيب, I want to go to the bigger one, لأن هنا مشروحة أكتر. It's virtually operated, and it can be part of the proposed Arab Open Science Cloud, كويس, and in each region to guide targeted there in municipal communities with all technical and financial requirements clearly identified to implement the SDGs. طبعا, we can give priority to poor areas first, and if you do that, it will overflow to the rest of the countries. Capacity building, we have tons of unemployed college graduates. بيتخرجوا من الجامعات كل سنة, وين بيروحوا؟ أنت, you can hook them up to these virtually operated centers of excellence. You train them on a trade. Okay? It doesn't matter إذا هو متخرج من philosophy ولا من آداب ولا من science ولا كده. Give him a trade. Once he is quote unquote well educated, a college student, graduate, they can actually gain technical knowledge, and they can be part of the development phase. So by doing that, you train them, and you build the critical mass and of the technical force that you actually need for your development. And you can utilize technology universities and research institutes worldwide to actually design the content of that center of excellence. وبعدين طبعا governance, you can still bring back all those well-educated to lead the management of these centers. And with that, I know you want me out of here. Thank you very much. And please keep in touch. I hope it was useful. I don't know.
I hope so. أنا عادة لما أدعي متحدث بحاول إنه يحكي زي ما بدي، فمشكلتي مع نزار إنه بيحكي زي ما بده. فعموما أنا بشكرك يعني، وأنا بحب الحراء يعني، ولما لا أستطيع أن أوقفه لأنه فعلا بتحدث من قلبه أكثر ما يكون بتحدث من سلايدز. فشكرا حسن. بس أنا عندي جواب على كل الأشياء اللي تفضلت فيها، بس بديش أضيع وقت الناس في الغداء وفي الناس لا مو في ديبيت صار. هو انت فتحت ديبيت لا في ديبيت صار يعني ويمكن بده وقت وبده كذا فبس يعني التحديات اللي بيحكي عنها موجوده وهذا صحيح. في اليات لحل هذه قضيه الانفراستراكشر انك تكون عندك انفراستراكشر تركز على الانفراستراكشر مهم جدا بس انه مثلا تحكي انا بدي يكون عندي انفراستراكشر بعدين ابدا اعمل اوبن ساينس بتكون انت ضيعت وقت. فهو السؤال انه shall we start do infrastructure and wait for the demand or wait until the demand comes and then start the infrastructure. It's a process that has to go through, do both, promote for open science, prepare yourself for the open science live and so on. Meanwhile, you will have at that time the infrastructure is there for those who do not have this infrastructure. However, I don't want it's not. I am not a speaker, so I will not take it more. معنا يعني بعتذر انه تاخرنا عليه اللي هو اخونا وحبيبنا السيد نبيل الخصيبي هو مسؤول عن تعزيز التبني مجتمع اوركيد في منطقه الشرق الاوسط وافريقيا وكان سابقا يعمل في شركه هيولت باكارد انتربرايز يعني كان مسؤول عن كل يعني في منطقه برضه الشرق الاوسط والبحر الابيض المتوسط وافريقيا. هو راح يحكي عن دعم اوركيد للباحثين العرب يعني هاي واحد من الاشياء المهمه اللي احنا وفي شراكه بيننا وبين اوركيد في شراكه بيننا وبين يونسكو ودوج يعني معظم اللي تفضلت وحكيتهم دكتور حسن يعني احنا في علاقات بيننا وبينهم ان ندمجهم وندمج كوميونتي تبعتنا معهم. خلينا مع اوركيد. تفضل اخي نبيل.
Right. So I'm going to talk English, and yes, it's because of frustration. That's fine. So yes, my name is Nabil Ksibi. I'm engagement lead at ORCID, and ORCID is standing for the Open Researcher and Contributor ID. So first slide, please. Sorry. Okay, so just before starting, I wanted to thank ASREN, I wanted to thank CCK. This is a really great opportunity in Tunisia to have such conferences and such networking and really think of starting to build around open science and open research. And special thanks to the technical team as well and to the scientists that joined us today. So ORCID, as I said, is standing for Open Researcher and Contributor ID. As you can see here, I didn't add my name in the presentation. I just added my ORCID ID. And yeah, because I can be Nabil Aziz Ksibi in a publication, I can be Nabil Ksibi in a work, I can be Aziz Ksibi. In my passport, I'm Nabil Aziz Ksibi. I can be like N.A. Ksibi in another like different publication. But you can find all those known as in this ORCID record. And basically what we will be discussing about today is kind of an agenda on ORCID, how it can help researchers and especially the Arabic-speaking researcher and the Arab researcher. First thing, we will be talking about ORCID as a registry full of unique identifiers. Then ORCID as a solution for researchers to manage basically their contributions and get credit for their work in the research ecosystem in general. Then how publishers really printed a single name in various ways. So that's also a challenge that we are trying to fix, basically. Then how does a researcher get credit for the work, and then how funders or employers, universities can know that this researcher wrote specific work or did a specific contribution. We'll also touch base on issues in translating name from Arabic to English. We'll also empathize on the role of ASREN as a regional research and education network, supporting really persistent identifiers, not only bits, but that's what we are seeing now is that ASREN is more and more interested in persistent identifiers, and that's also the case for lot of national research and education networks like CCK and NREN, and a lot of local research and education networks. Then I think it will be a good opportunity to introduce the concept of regional ORCID consortia. So we don't have this. We will see ORCID in numbers globally, but this is an initiative that we are trying to explore with ASREN. Then, of course, we'll empathize on the importance of ORCID for organizations, and that will be great if, like, we have a word, from the community that we are interested in persistent identifiers, and we would like to invest more in this infrastructure. So how are we supporting open research in Arab states? So just to start with a few facts about ORCID. So ORCID is an independent, non-for-profit, open to participation by all. Means that our board of members is really elected by the community, and any member can vote for our board of members. It will not be sold tomorrow, so this is really a communitary initiative. Our registry was launched in 2012, and we are sustained by fees from our members' organization. So we are not having like an external fund or someone is really investing in ORCID. This is only contributions from members, and that's which is sustaining our technology and all what we are doing. So we are just 36 people around the world, don't have any office. So, and we are trying to really get closer to the community everywhere. We are open to work with the global community of researchers and scientists. As I said, it's a community governed by a board of directors, and these directors are elected by the members. To circle back on the ORCID mission, so really the ORCID mission is a world where all who participates in research, education, scholarly, are uniquely identified and linked to their contributions across disciplines, borders, and time. So that's really the essence of what we are aiming to do and what we are aiming to achieve. The offerings of ORCID, we have three different offerings. The first one is, of course, the persistent identifier, which is a free of charge 16-digit identifier that any researcher can obtain. The second one is a set of application programming interfaces, and these will be like the application or the interface that any system or even any individual can use to connect to the registry and either authenticate ORCID IDs or exchange information for their system or to ORCID. Then we also, ORCID registry in itself, it's a place to store and share the resulting connections between IDs and research activities and affiliations. And by research activities, we really mean all the contribution of the researcher from publications to, and also publications can be chapters, book chapters, articles, or anything, any contribution from this researcher to the research in general. So this is the ORCID presence globally. We are having around 7 million active records. We are present in 56 countries. We have 25 consortia, and we have 1,237 organizational members. And as you can see here, Africa is not very well represented, but we are working on this, and we hope that we can have more adoption in Africa and in the Middle East and Arabic-speaking countries. Who are ORCID stakeholders? Basically anyone or any entity or any organization or institution that is contributing to research, like funders, publishers, service providers, and of course universities and institutions. The researcher is always at the center of all what we are doing and also part of the stakeholders group. What is the ORCID, let's say, membership structure or community structure? Of course, we have the ORCID members. We can have direct members with ORCID, but we also have different consortia around the world. We have 25 consortia, and where the consortia lead is really acting as the representation of ORCID in the country and supporting the community either in local language or or technically with Tier 1 support. What about ORCID and the ASREN community? What brought us to ASREN? So basically we have a lot of members in the Arabic-speaking countries that are pioneers in ORCID, let's say technical integration and adopting ORCID in their systems and their workflows and infrastructure, including KAUST, which is King Abdulaziz University for Science and Technology. They even built a patch for ORCID and DSpace as an open repository to help basically members to integrate with ORCID easily. Because there is a lot of issues with DSpace. I don't know if you are familiar with like repository systems. It's an open and custom system, and it's very difficult, let's say, to integrate with the system without like a patch or an external application. We also have the Jordanian Open Innovation Platform, which is led by the National Center of Innovation in Jordan. They built a beautiful integration, really synchronizing the record or the researcher records and all the activities with their platform. So if you add something on your ORCID record, like an affiliation or an invited position or an achievement, that will be synchronized with the JOY platform. There is also the UAE ORCID community. We have a couple of universities there, 2 publishers, and we are working with them basically to have more adoption of ORCID and basically spread the word about ORCID in the region. Same thing for Qatar. We have also a couple of universities there, but just a highlight, and really hope to have more institutions from the Arabic-speaking countries to join us and really to participate in even in the board of ORCID and participate in the future of ORCID. So this is a quote by Dr. Hossein Turki. He's a professor in University of Sfax, and this is really showing why ORCID is important. So here you can see that the name of Monji bin Hamida can be written differently in a lot of databases and a lot of repositories. And according to this study and this publication, you can find the source there. It is really affecting the ranking of Tunisia in some institutional or international standings. So that's also an example, and this is really good study. I think it's dated from 2014. So this is basically how ORCID can solve this ambiguity, naming ambiguity issue in the research ecosystem. So that's the proposed, let's say, plan for to get more adoption in Tunisia. Of course, starting with the researchers. we can introduce ORCID institutional membership in the universities, and then they also will convey the message to their students and researchers, and really work on outreach programs and workshops to get more best practice, let's say, use of ORCID. Then, of course, the coordination of the Ministry of Higher Education is fundamental as a funder, and that's helping also developing national persistent identifier strategy. And it's important because in Netherlands, for example, they have the National Persistent Identifiers Officer. So it's like a representation in the government for persistent identifiers. So this is just going beyond the national open science policy or like guidance for open science. The work with the CNUTs and CCK is really also important. So these are one of the major players, let's say, in the research education and scholarly publishing world in Tunisia. And of course, these can be a pilot to regional adoption, of course, in partnership with ASREN and GIZ and African Development Bank. There is also the example from JustTech that just tested the ORCID integration on their Al-Fikr portal. And we hopefully can get JustTech as our first member in Tunisia. Then, yeah, so a couple of facts also that can help understanding how this identifier really can help, the research ecosystem in Tunisia. The first one is increasing, of course, the global participation of the country. That's very important. And by adopting these open research infrastructures and modern practices, we will be leveling up, let's say, with other countries that already adopted this and mastering this. And decreasing the level of isolation due to language barriers, because you can own ORCID as a community. So if you are a community lead or a consortium lead, you can offer support in local language and technical tier 1 support. So that's really owning ORCID as a country or as a community. Then increase the connection, because we are talking a lot about the discrepancy between global north and global south. So this is an opportunity also to increase the collaboration between Europe, Africa, and why not having Tunisia as a hub, basically, for different, let's say, gatherings between organizations and institutions from the north to meet with institutions from the south. And really, international conferences and ORCID workshops and PIT events are an opportunity to realize that and make it in practice. Then increasing the influence on other African and neighbors, Arabic-speaking countries. Of course, the adoption of ORCID will help other neighbor countries in thinking of this infrastructure and doing the first step. And then, yeah, so that's very important, the researcher appetite to pursue their research in country, and because, yeah, a lot of researchers are only like looking for more, let's say, projects overseas, or not really trusting the infrastructure in the country. So the goals for the community, of course, supporting open science and open research, reducing administrative burdens, so we can enter, you can enter the information once and reuse it often. The access and reporting on research impact, so if you're an ORCID member, you can access like a bunch of reports that can help you assess your research outputs and research data, or manage your research data. Of course, improving the visibility of researchers, improving interoperability, identify and disambiguate researchers' names, and then improve data quality and meet or set national or funder policy. So ORCID and regional RENs like ASREN. So this I'll be just briefly describing how ASREN and WACREN and LibSense are very important to adopt PIDs in Africa and in the Arabic-speaking countries. This is from I think the website of ASREN, and you can see that there is mention of ASREN, Ubuntu.net, and WACREN, and the aim to be, like, say, the PID provider and enabler in the region. And the proof is the different memorandum of understanding that was signed by ASREN and by WACREN as well, with ORCID. So this is like a representation of the ORCID record. That's the researcher at the center. And the different sections of this container are really linked to every stakeholder and every category, let's say, of institutions that can interact with your ORCID record. So you can see that the first one can really interact with affiliations and organizational like employment, and how the organization can assert your employment and affiliation on the ORCID record. The second one is the person identifiers for research outputs. So here is the role of the publishers, and really to maintain the ORCID record up to date with the recent publications and even past publications of the researcher by integrating their systems and synchronizing their information and metadata between their systems and the ORCID record. Funders also are now adopting ORCID. So I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, the UKRI announced their UK National Open Science guidance or recommendation as a funder. And they included persistent identifiers as really a pillar to manage their funding and manage their grant submission workflows. The FAIR principles are also in the game, so we are, let's say, compliant with all the FAIR principles. So FAIR is standing for fair data is data that can be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. The ORCID basically, let's say, trust markers or the ORCID pillars are let's say, the open and trusted and inclusive. So ORCID is striving to be open, inclusive, and trusted. And this is our, let's say, mantra for the community. And of course, this is standing on the technical constructs and standing on the social constructs that the community basically is helping to build. On the right and left, you can see the points where we support this, let's say, this image and this picture that we are trying to maintain for our community. So as a researcher, basically, you can have your ORCID records and your ORCID, let's say, your publication data and all your contribution link it to your ORCID records. And the control is really under the researcher's hand. So all the sections of the ORCID record can be set to private or public, or visible to trusted parties only. So this is really to show how the researcher is always keeping control of the ORCID record. And in any way, to interact with the ORCID record of the researcher, you need to ask him for, or ask her for, permission to access and to interact with their ORCID record. This is some examples of trust markers or authoritative assertions. You can see that here the employment, the first one, the employment was asserted by the researcher, manually. The second one was asserted by an institution, and you can see the trust markers are the DOI, which is the Digital Object Identifier. And and of course it goes along with the organizational identifier and the ID of the ORCID ID of the researcher. And these are really set to show that the organization asserted this information and not manually by the researcher. So again, this is showing the dynamic between the researcher and the different stakeholders, how the different systems can interact with the ORCID record of the individual. And as much as the record is complete and full, as much as these stakeholders can benefit of it and can interact with it. And whether it is a university, a funder, or a publisher. These are a couple of resources, so you can consult them right after the presentation. Some information about ORCID, about membership, basically how to find support, and then how to get some news from ORCID and what we are doing. Some additional information. So if you get back to the values, openness, inclusivity, and trust, of course we are really trying to be as global as we can. So we have, I think, just 2 or 3 countries doesn't have researchers that do not have ORCID record, but except that we are almost everywhere. We are based on collaborative work, and we really want to be as much transparent with the community as possible. So this to show that ORCID hopefully will not be sold or closed tomorrow. So in 2019 we reached the break-even. So there is no funder that is funding ORCID now. All our operational expenses are coming from our members' contributions, and that's going to a good trend because of the involvement of the community globally. So if you join ORCID, for example, today what will be let's say the guarantees for you to participate. So this is the strategic plan until 2025, and you can see that we are really working on increasing a couple of values for members and for researchers. We are also looking to increase global participation. We have a recently launched program called Global Participation Program, which is offering a kind of special fee for the low and middle-income countries. Then upholding trust and integrity, that's also a very important pillar for us, and that will be our focus also for the next couple of years. So I think this slide is very similar to the previous one, but this is to show the work of the API and how every system can pull and push information into the ORCID record in different sections, whether it is the affiliation or the works or even peer reviews or achievements or awards. I think it's, so this is, sorry, just a couple of slides that I think went in double. So this is a value story for the researcher, what ORCID can do for the researcher. Of course, owning this ORCID record, so any researcher can register for free to this ORCID record and own it. The naming flexibility, you can add all your variations of your name in your ORCID record in the also known as section. There is also the factor that you can do more time in research and less time in administrative submissions and filling forms. The control of your visibility, as I said, each and every section can be either private or public or set to trusted parties only. And of course, reducing administrative burden and data portability. So you can have your ORCID records and download it in a single page if you want, and then you can access it from anywhere, and you can share it with anyone that can access it as well. For the institutions, it's almost similar thing. So it helps institutions to disambiguate researchers' name and their students' name. It helps also to understand and better connect systems with this registry. Reduced costs. So when you adopt ORCID as like central registry or a database, it's gonna help in let's say reducing cost of maintaining a lot of systems and a lot of let's say pieces of the workflow. And of course, improving visibility of outputs, reducing administrative burden is the same, and including open infrastructure. And that was me. Thank you so much.
طولنا عليكم صح؟ بس اتوقع تستحق الاستماع كل اللي تفضلوا فيه، يعني كله رائع جدا. بقي عندنا متحدث واحد، شاهر الزيود، هو من فلسطين ولكنه بالطائرة الآن، فيعني انتهت الجلسة بأنه المتحدث إن شاء الله يتحدث غدا، لأنه تأخرت طيارته فهو موجود في الطائرة. إن شاء الله غدا يتحدث لكم شاهر الزيود من فلسطين. إن شاء الله يوصل بالسلام وبنلتقي فيكم غدا. ما بعرف إذا تحبوا نكون في مجال الأسئلة ولا الغداء، واللي بده يسأل سؤال يسأل الجماعة على استراحة الغداء، لأنه الغداء بدأ من نصف ساعة، يعني احنا تأخرنا عليكم. إذا لازم نعمل استراحة الغداء تبدأ من الآن لمدة ساعة. بتوقع في نظموا الغداء المستضيفين، ما بدي نيابة عنهم، بس ضروري نرجع لأنه في ترتيب مع المتحدثين. الجلسة الأخيرة رح يكون عن بعد، فلازم يعني بدنا نكون موجودين بعرفش دكتور. فخلينا يعني نيابة عن المستضيف إنه ندعيكم على الغداء، ونلتقي بعد الغداء الساعة الثانية تماما. بارك الله فيك. اسمحوا لي أشكر المتحدثين ونشكرهم مع بعض.